What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Apocaflix Movies. This is the movie watching challenge. This is a segment that we do on our main show, Apocaflix Now, which is every Tuesday at 7 p.m., as you can see right down here. Yes, on our main show, we have a segment where one of us is challenged to a movie that we have never seen. Every week, a member of Apocaflix is challenged, and I, Jacob Bartley, was challenged this week to watch The Age of Innocence, the Martin Scorsese film.
Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder.
Shall I come to you?
Come to me. The Age of Innocence.
Released in 1993, a novel adaptation, and not your typical Scorsese film, or at least what movie fans in the 2000s and beyond have kind of imagined Scorsese films. This movie is actually a really good movie, and it's very well made, but it's not Goodfellas. So if you're going into this movie thinking like, oh, we're gonna get some violence, we're gonna get some sex, like, no, that's not what this movie is. And I actually appreciated it from the standpoint that Scorsese has more range in his abilities than I give him credit for. I mean, he's one of the GOATs. He's one of the best of all time, and he's one of my favorites of all time. But he's kind of been put in this category of, mob movies, or like very, they're usually like centered around violence, drugs, sex. He's kind of been thrown in this bucket. If you're watching a Scorsese movie, like, kids can't watch it, basically. Start The Age of Innocence, and look, the thumbnail that's on Amazon Prime Video is this image of Daniel Day-Lewis like kissing Michelle Pfeiffer's neck, and she's like making a moaning face. That is the most sexual thing in this whole entire movie. I mean, they kiss a couple times, but like sloppy makeouts for like 5 seconds. But other than that, there's no cursing, there's no drugs, I don't even think they drink alcohol in this movie. Maybe certain characters in the background at some point. But it's just a pure story. And it said rated PG, and I wasn't sure, like, oh, did PG-13 not exist back then? Because I got to look up what year PG-13 came into play. But I was like, oh, so it's a pretty, straightforward movie. Like, I was expecting like Unfaithful, or a movie like that, like an erotic thriller, right? Because you read the synopsis and it's, hey, like, basically a guy's in love with another woman and essentially they have an affair, kind of. But they don't really in the movie. They kind of like tease each other, but they never really go all the way. But look, bottom line is, this is a really good movie. Actually, it's a great movie. Not every movie needs to have all these adult things in it. And I enjoyed it for what it was. Several reasons. Now, look, I was thinking about this as certain experiences go, right? There's certain experiences you can only have once. You can only have once. And as far as watching Daniel Day-Lewis in a Martin Scorsese movie, if I'm not mistaken, he only has Gangs of New York and The Age of Innocence, if I'm not mistaken. So only 2 times ever in my whole entire life, I'll be able to watch for the first time a Martin Scorsese movie starring Daniel Day-Lewis. And for that alone, that is just something special, because Daniel Day-Lewis is a legend, and I wish he was still acting. He's still alive, but I respect his decisions. He is so good. Like, I don't even care what the context of this movie is. He is incredible because he tells stories with his facial expressions. There's a scene at the end of the movie where he's sitting on a bench and It's kind of the last scene of the movie. And you can see all of the emotions going on in his head and exactly what he's thinking. It's as if we were listening to voiceover from the character, but there was no voiceover from him. We were just seeing his feelings on his face. And I didn't need a word of dialogue. I knew exactly what he was feeling and exactly what he was thinking. And that is true acting ability right there. Like, I could not believe it. And the thing is, if this was your first ever Daniel Day-Lewis movie, you would kind of be like, "Oh, that guy's cool. Like, he was good. Like, he played the straight edge, soft-spoken, guy pretty well." But then if you look at his filmography and you see like Bill the Butcher and Lincoln and There Will Be Blood, you see all the different types of roles he plays. And I actually like My Beautiful Laundrette. That movie's great, and he's great in it. Young Daniel Day-Lewis. I think that's the name of the movie. That movie's underrated. You guys should go check it out if you haven't seen it. But he's absolutely incredible in this movie because I haven't seen him play this role that often. Like just like a stand-up guy. He's trying to do the right thing, but he's in so much pain because he's torn between these two women. And like he's trying to be a gentleman and like a nice guy and a good person, and he's not a bad person, but he's torn in this situation. And like you could see all of this going on in his facial expressions throughout the whole entire movie. And I was just blown away by that. And like I said, like just seeing Scorsese work with Daniel Day-Lewis and them working together and everything. And the thing for me is I'm afraid we're going to lose this in Hollywood, and we might have already lost it, is like the way they build these sets and the way they make it feel like they're really in, the time period that the movie takes place. Like it just feels so authentic and it feels realistic. And nowadays, even in like TV shows and newer movies, it feels so like you can tell like it's Hollywood, like it looks like the old stuff, but it all looks new and it all looks like a Hollywood set. Whereas this movie, all the environments felt very real to me. Like I did not doubt for 1 second that we were in this time era. And I keep A Tale of 19th Century New York High Society. Yeah. So it really feels like the time era. You feel like you're there with these characters, and I appreciated that. Like I said, this is not going to be one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. Maybe not even the top 5. But this movie made me appreciate Scorsese even more than I already did because it showed me his range, showed me that he can do something different, and it shows me that he doesn't need violence, sex, the mob, drugs to tell a compelling story. He can do it if you don't give him those tools. So this just furthered my opinion of Scorsese. And also, Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder, both great in their roles. They're both, Michelle Pfeiffer, she's not even a bad woman either. You know, a lot of time people who have affairs, they get painted as they're a terrible person. And if you look at these two characters, they're not bad people. They just can't control themselves. Like it's truly they truly feel something special for each other. And yeah, they kiss a couple times, but they and hold hands a couple times, but they don't ever go past that line. And it's kind of a sweet story of like they want to have an affair, but they can't. And because the girls are cousins, so she doesn't want to disrespect her cousin like that. And obviously the families would shame them and different time era. Like nowadays, someone does this, like people can get away with it, but back then you're basically shamed for life. Like you can get a job or something if people know you had an affair. So I get how the story was told. It all made sense. And Winona Ryder played her character. Like there was nothing wrong with Winona Ryder's character. He was just not in love with her as much as he was in love with the Michelle Pfeiffer character. And yeah, I mean, what a great decision this guy has to make, right? Winona Ryder or Michelle Pfeiffer, two amazing women. So yeah, this movie, like I said, I wouldn't say you have to watch this. Like, if you're a Scorsese fan, you have to watch it. I wouldn't go that far. But if you want to appreciate some non-mob movie Scorsese and appreciate how, vulnerable a role Daniel Day-Lewis can play, you have to watch this movie. That I will say that. If you're interested in those two things, I will say that. Well, that's going to do it for my review of The Age of Innocence. Very, very solid movie. I'm glad it's in my film repertoire. Like, I'm glad I watched this movie. It made me a better film fan, in my opinion. And if you want to check it out, I think it will do the same for you. Let me know what you thought of the movie, if you've seen it, or what you thought of my thoughts in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts. Again, I'm Jacob Bartley. This is Apocaflix Movies, and this was the movie watching challenge. And we're going to touch base on this on our Tuesday show at 7 p.m. Apocaflix Now. I will challenge the next viewer on that show. So keep an eye out. You'll find out who I challenged, which 4 movies I chose them to, and the will of fate will decide. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.